I think we're live. Let me just do a quick little bit of checking. Got a fancy new setup and gotta make sure everything's working. We have a green screen here with some math on it because we're gonna be doing some math. And yeah, I think I am actually live. All right. I believe the technology is not lying to us. Okay, cool. For everyone who joined today, I am going to try to build a really simple app with views, mostly just to talk about views and Jelly and what you can do with them. The app itself will kind of be quite simple. I'm going to use Gadget to sync some order data from a Shopify store. I'll have some sort of daily sales target that I'm tracking. And if my orders aggregate to meet or not meet that sales target, I'll have some sort of UI that informs me. So I'll know if I'm hitting my daily goal of, let's say, $100 of sales or whatnot. We're going to do this in Gadget pretty quickly. I don't think we're going to need very much time. It'll probably be a couple of files of code. And I think that's a testament to how much of a problem like this Gadget can handle, both on connecting to Shopify, the infrastructure, syncing, and all that. But most interestingly today, what I'll focus on is views. And so what we've done is because we have a shared database that every application uses, we've worked really hard on a DSL language that we've developed called Jelly. That's effectively your way of communicating with that database. And that's how we ensure that everyone's queries are fair to everybody else, that nobody's using resources unfairly, and that one person's mistakes in queries don't accidentally hurt the rest of the platform. So we've been working really, really hard on Jelly. And over time, it's kind of gotten quite sophisticated, and now it could do aggregates. And so with views, what we've given all of our users is the ability to kind of do really complex aggregates against this shared database in a very safe way where they can't hurt one another. With a DX that is much, much more elegant than SQL, in my opinion, as you'll come to see in a moment. And in the future, we might be able to power this with other database technologies like Materialize or whatnot that will make it faster over time. But at the moment, this is kind of powered by Postgres. Cool. So we are going to build a very simple sales tracker. What I'll do is share my screen. And sorry, I do not use a separate keyboard. And so using this keyboard is going to feel very foreign to me. So if you see me typing a lot of weird things, it's because I'm not used to the size of the keyboard I'm going to be using. Okay, great. Let's do sharing of this screen. Here we are. Great. I believe, yeah, this is all I need. I think I'm going to do it this way where I'll flip back and forth and let you folks see yourselves, as weird as that is. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to skip this step and I'm just going to start a custom Shopify app. Here, actually, I'll move this screen over because I do need to make sure Riley can warn me if I'm doing something too fast or too slow, or if someone's asking me a question. Okay, cool. So we're going to build the Shopify app. I'll just get started. I'll hit continue and we'll say sales goal tracker. Let me see how many typos in that. Nope. Great. Gadget will set up all of the full stack infra, Postgres, read replicas across 3 regions in Google Cloud, Elasticsearch for search, Cloudflare for CDN, Google Cloud for everything, including hosting and backend. Stitches it together and serves it to be behind this nice little UI and framework that you folks are probably familiar with. From there, I can kind of connect to my Shopify store because that's not the point of the demo. I'm going to go pretty quickly. Gadget has a built-in integration, so I'm just going to say connect via AI. The chat's already open. Let's say we're going to build a, here, actually, let's go to a doc and let's write out some of our requirements a little bit more clearly. Oh, my screen is no longer sharing. There we go. You folks can see my screen now. Yes. Amazing. Okay, sorry about that. So I just started an app. I haven't done anything. I was just explaining what Gadget was, and I've opened the chat window to ask the assistant to help me set up a connection. But before doing that, I popped open a doc over here where I'll write out some of the requirements before we kind of jump in. So let's do a simple sales tracker for Shopify. For the back end, pretty simple. We're going to need connection to Shopify, probably need some order data and maybe order line item data, because I think we're going to need to pull the payment status of the order from somewhere to make sure they're actually like bona fide orders that have been paid for. We're going to need to sync that data. So we'll do that. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a journey typing on this keyboard. So I'm going to switch to my laptop. Yeah, we're going to sync that data. And we'll probably do that on install. So we'll write some code where as soon as the app is installed, we'll go and synchronize all the historical order data that we can get our hands on. And that'll be about 60 days. That's the default in Shopify. And then finally, we will need to create a view. So this is where we'll write our aggregated query, where we'll look at the orders, probably group them by day, and have a set target, which we'll collect in some separate UI from the user. And the view will track, sales by day that are paid against the set target, and maybe kind of like, if we have time, show them highlighted green or red, depending on whether our target is met. So that'll be the UI. Sorry, I shouldn't have put this under backend. This portion is kind of the UI, in case that wasn't clear. So just a one-page app. There'll be a card at the top. What's your target? And then under that, a table. And in that table, one row is one day. How many sales in that day did you hit your target? Super simple. Okay, so going back to Gadget, what we're going to do is ask the assistant to set up the Shopify connection because we're feeling lazy. So a connection to Shopify that would allow me to sync all the order data I need to create a sales dashboard of paid orders by day. I only want order data. Don't give me other stuff. Sometimes I find I have to tell our assistant not to give me too much data because it likes to think about all possible things I might build in the future and prepare me for them. But unfortunately, that just means a lot of scopes and models that you don't need. So even now, I suspect it's going to give me a bunch of order models that don't contain data I care about. And this is something we just have to get better at over time. So what did it give me? Oh, not bad. See, I think that's because I was a little bit more specific. But I got the shop model, which we need. That's going to contain the store that installs my app. I'm going to sync some data, so that's great. The order model itself, I'm hoping the order model actually has all the data I need. I suspect there might be some stuff in the order transactions around the financial status, so this might be bad. And then the rest of the stuff is just kind of like ancillary stuff that I need. Yeah, there you go. And all the files that kind of come with them. So I'll accept the changes. You can set up the connection to Shopify in a minute without the assistant as well. The UI is just as easy. I will put this under our Gadget account. The assistant will go ahead and create two separate apps in my Shopify organization, one for development, which is mapped against this environment, and then one production, which I have to change environments to get to. So you have two apps in Shopify. And now because I'm accessing order data, I actually have to fill in a form for Shopify to send me order information. I think specifically like the customer portion of that data that's in there. So I'll have to log in to my dashboard. Gadget kind of makes this easy. They link directly to the form Shopify has in your partner dashboard that you need to fill out. And I'm not even sure you need to fill out the entire thing in development. At this point, I just click all the buttons when building, because you don't really need to answer this in development. It's mostly for production. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I think I should be good. Let me just do it for production as well, just in case I actually have to do it right now. So again, if you don't do this, I forget, either they don't include the PII sensitive data in the webhook payloads, or they don't send them at all altogether. And I think possibly both, depending on what model has this customer data in it. So it might be one of those things that Shopify is not particularly consistent on. So filling out forms, lovely. So far, haven't done anything useful with my time. I think we're good. Confirm. All right, let's go and install this on a store. I believe this store has some order data, but before we go install it, I actually want to quickly just take care of something in code. And there's no reason to do this in code, the syncing of the historical data. Gadget provides you with some UIs where after someone installs your app, you can go and hit a button and we'll sync the data. I could do this that way. In theory, I'm building an app for one store. I don't really need to code in how to sync, but I think it feels more real to me to show you folks how to sync in code, because that's ultimately what most of you will be doing, especially if you're building a public app. You're not going to log back into Gadget every 2 seconds and hit sync. So let's go take care of that first. And the way to do that, I think what we're going to do is go to the model called Shopify. Oh, that was weird. Shopify Shop. And sure you want to move. I don't want to move anything to anything. Nope. I just want to open Shopify Shop. There we go. I must have clicked on something unusual. So if you open the shop model, you'll notice that there are actions that are hooked to all of the install, uninstall events that that Shopify has. So this action, this file of code, I haven't installed the app yet, that banner will go away, but this file of code will fire as soon as Shopify sends us the signal that someone has installed my application. So this is where you would, if you're going to add code for syncing the data on an install, this is typically where you would do it, here in the on success. So I think the syntax, if I'm not mistaken, is something like await API dot. I really need to not use that keyboard. It's so awkward to be using a keyboard and then looking to your side, but this is how we're gonna roll. I think I need to do domain. So we just need to pass in the shop that is installing the app's information to the sync API, and Gadget will take care of it from there, I believe. Okay, so I think that's it. That's all we should need. All right. Yeah, let's go install the app and see if that works. Okay, so we're going to go install the application. And hopefully what we're going to see is a sync take place. Okay, great. All right, awesome. So I've installed the app. This is the initial default UI that Gadget shows anytime anyone installs it. This is what we're going to be replacing. But before we do that, let's go and see if it actually synced any order data. No data available. Oh, that could just be because the store has nothing. Yeah. You can see it attempted a sync. It looks like it. Let's actually go to the data itself. Yeah, and so there's nothing there, and I suspect that is because the store has no data. So we will go add a couple of orders to the store. So this is the store that has the app installed. Yeah, you can see, I think Shopify by default on the orders model, they only send you the last 60 days. So you can see the last order I have is in June. So it wouldn't get picked up. Um, let's go and create one. And let's mark it as paid. And hopefully Gadget will pick this order up in a moment. If we want, we can go look at our logs. Yeah, there's some sort of webhook coming in, and there it is. Okay, cool. We got an order. Let's do. Is there what? There's a quick way via the CLI to create like a bunch of test orders. How do you do that? Is there a chat here? Is anyone here trying to help me in the chat? If not, I'll just live with one order. Nope, no one in the chat. Okay, we live with one order. That's okay. It's going to be an interesting dashboard. We'll add more as we need to. So we got the first part done. If we go back to our requirements up here, we are connected to Shopify. We're getting order data. We're not getting order line item data. Let's look at that in a second if I have the stuff I need. And then we're syncing data on install. So order data, what does it contain? Oh, there's a paid unpaid Boolean. That seems useful. Yeah. Is the amount not available? Do we want that off of order transactions? Probably go ahead and add order transactions as well. Just because I know for sure the data I want is there. So yeah, let's go do that. Let's go add order transactions to our plugin. I think order transactions, yeah, not line items. And I believe that will require me doing something potentially. No, I'm good. I might have to go and sync again just because. Yeah. Why is it not registering this webhook? There we go. Okay, so order transactions. That is what we're going to use as our source data, I believe. Yeah, this looks a lot better. Yes, we're talking money stuff here and much more familiar API, which I trust myself understanding a lot better. So what we're going to do is like look at the aggregate data and try to pull out the day maybe, just so like we'll have one column in the table, say like what day is it? And it'll be one row per day. A second column for total orders, and maybe a third that compares it against our goal. And the way to do that is to build a view. So to get started with views, just right under API, you can pop open a new folder and call it views. And you're going to write views in Jelly, which is our expression language that's kind of used for talking to the database that I referenced earlier. So we'll start a Jelly file and we'll call it sales breakdown. And I'm not even sure if it's that case sensitive, but we'll pretend it is. And we're going to offer a lot better tooling for the DX of Jelly and how to kind of compose it over time. Ooh, something is off with my little UI over here. My view contains errors because I haven't even written it. We're going to get a lot more helpful in letting you folks kind of figure out how to write these things by offering a much better DX. But right now, there's a lot of documentation around the syntax. For a jelly snippet that's serving a view, you kind of always want to start with a query. So you'll write out, where's my keyboard again? The wrong screen. Here we go. Can't do that one. Query, and we'll have to pass in a few parameters. So what I'm going to pass in is probably a start date, and that'll be of time, of type date time and required, and a end date, also date time and required. And what we're probably going to query, or what we want returned, and I think this is generally the syntax of Jelly. Oops, I have a little type over there. That you kind of specify what you want returned first. So we'll want days, and that'll be coming from the order transactions table. Just because I'm more familiar with it, you might be able to do all of this from the transactions table as well, the orders table as well. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to stick to what I'm comfortable. So we'll first, we'll declare gross income as the sum, and this is some of the functionality that Jelly offers you. So it's something like between SQL and GraphQL. Sorry, I should have focused on this a little bit earlier. Really ergonomic. You'll see the syntax is like pretty easy. You can traverse relationships kind of like you traverse relationships in GraphQL, which is a lot more fun than trying to figure out how to join them 10 ways over. And that ultimately makes it a lot easier to write out. So it's basically like SQL, but then traversing relationships really feels like GraphQL. So gross income, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sum of the amount. I think I might have to cast this actually. And you can do all of this, by the way, in Jelly. So I'm going to take the amount and I'm going to cast it as a number. And we're going to call that gross income. I believe, sorry, this is where I think the DX could use a little bit help. Like the squigglies are really helpful. What's wrong isn't super clear necessarily. And this side panel is trying to give me a sense. Similarly, what we're going to do is generate both an API endpoint as soon as the syntax is actually valid and show you what permissions apply to it. I'll talk through this in a second. So you'll see this kind of spinning in and out of control a little bit as I break and fix what I'm writing. And again, we're going to make that experience a lot better and more useful. So aside from the gross income by day, I want to also pull out the date. And I think what we're going to do is just truncate that down to the day portion and do that on, let's say, the created at timestamp that comes through with the webhook, which Gadget calls Shopify created at that field because we have our own competing created at timestamp. So that should be that. And I think from there, what we need to do is now filter down the results. So to do that, you open up a where clause and the syntax slightly different, but again, familiar once you've done it a couple of times. And here we'll say, Shopify created at, this keyboard is going to drive me nuts. My goodness. And so we'll make sure to filter for the start date being higher than the number we input and the end date being lower. So where would the end date be? Was that, I guess, just Shopify created at. Sorry, I'm just looking over because I have the schema on this other screen and it makes it a lot easier to go back and forth. I will try to look at the camera from time to time. Okay, so I think that should filter it down for us. So we're looking for successful order transactions. I think that's paid. If not, I picked the wrong variable and there's more work to do here. And we are taking, oops, that's not, it's date trunk, not trunch. We are taking the gross income, filtering it by the date range and the status. And, oh, what's going on here? Date do not. What have I done? What did I just do here? Like, how? Okay, so I've done something, and this is where I think the syntax could really be a lot more helpful. Aggregate the model or all produce result for each row. Let me look to my trusty helpers to see if they can help me. Oh, I see. I put a comma up here because I'm stupid. My bad. Yeah, no commas. We don't believe in commas in Jelly. That should fix it, but it has not. And that's a little weird. So here, let's do this. I bet you. Still wrong. All right, let's go through some docs here. What have I done wrong? Oh, I see. Something as silly as that. I think I know what I've gotten wrong here. What have I done here? I think that was. I have no idea why that worked. I think what I must have done is had either a comma added in somewhere by mistake. Oh, I know what I just did. I think I wasn't grouping it by date. All I had to do was do the group by date, and that would have sorted things out. And the message is definitely not helpful. So that's on me. Okay, well, this should compute if we go run it. So we can test that out. But before we do that, let's actually like talk through what we're looking at here on the side. So you get a generated API endpoint for every view you generate. Just like our actions, views get auto-generated API. So if we go to the docs in your generated schema, you'll see, what you'll run and what to expect in return, as well as some ancillary information of just generally how to call views. If we go back to Gadget, we can run this. in the playground. And what date range should we send? Let's do the 26th. Oh, yeah, perfect. So if we do that, we get nothing. And if we change range, which we can. Okay, great. So we're going to be able to set the range in code from our front end, and it'll return some sort of array of results, which I think should be exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so let's go and actually produce the results on a front end by adding our index. So if you recall, here we can go to the preview. This is what our front end actually looks like right now. What we're going to do is replace it with two things. We're going to replace it with a card at the top just to collect a goal, a number, and then a table to show some of the view data that we're going to aggregate and send back. So I have a snippet prepared that I'm just going to copy here because that's going to take too long to write out. And I'll talk through it. So this is the default index file that you get. And what we're going to do is replace this gibberish that's kind of producing this UI over here with a snippet that I'll walk you folks through. Okay, so I wish we had a fire button. What are we doing here? None of these imports have really been changed. I'm pretty sure all I'm using is auto components, so you don't really need to bring in any other packages into your application. You can just use Gadget's built-in auto components for Polaris, because we're just going to use cards and tables. Start date and end date are being set. So what I do is right away, I kind of set those and pass them into my query right here. Makes sense. Yeah. In fact, that's why my playground wasn't returning results, because I was passing the same dates and I was expecting a different result, but the dates are going to come from the front end. Okay, cool. And then we have a few loader functions to fetch and display errors depending on the state if the error is not, the data we need is not returned. Some currency formatting that I won't bore you folks with because I don't really think it's the point of this call. And then finally, this is where we will start calling back and getting the data we need and displaying it. So what I would like to focus on is the views portion here. Actually, the best way to do this, I think, I'm going to have a bit of fun with this. Can you explain this index file to me chunk by chunk and how it calls the views API I just generated? Snippet was written by a colleague of mine, and so I'm very curious as to how the assistant does as to explaining it, because it has a pretty good understanding of Gadget in our framework. And I think we've trained it enough on views to actually be able to help. So yeah, you got the loaders, great. And yeah, there you go. Yeah. Huh. I'm learning something about views myself. So this is what surprised me, which is why I've paused. I didn't know you actually could or even needed to pass this active session. And it kind of makes sense. So what we're going to do is immediately tell the gadget backend which some why do I need the session data? I am so lost as to why do I need this? Let's ask the assistant. Oh, one thing I'm going to forget to do also is actually set the goal field. Sorry, I'm going to try to figure out why I need the act as session. Why do I need act as session when calling the view? Hmm, that makes sense. So basically, by using act as session, I pass the shop information that's required to Gadget to isolate all of the tenant data. So if this application was actually installed by 5 different shops, I wouldn't kind of bleed their data one to the other. Yeah. By adding in the act as session, we kind of make it filter for order transactions for that shop, which makes sense. Okay, cool. So we've got a little snippet of code. I'll show you what it looks like. It's really nothing special. There's like a table, and above it, there's a card to collect the goal, and the table will take the 3 fields from the view and display them. I think the part that I actually do want to show you folks is the here. Let me. This keyboard is going to be the death of me. This portion where we kind of use the auto-generated API, and like this is the syntax. This is all you need. So if you recall in the view itself, all I want is that start time, end time. And going back to that index file, that's all that was being passed through. And so it's quite elegant for in terms of the calls that are coming in from the front end. All right, let me go and add a field to the shop model. The reason I'm going to do this is I haven't actually put an area to save my sales goal. And in the code there, I noticed there was actually a call to load the goal into the shop model. So here, I'm too lazy to go back to the file, so I do everything with AI now. What is the name of the field that, oof, that's bad typing, populated? Ooh. In terms of sales goal. Yeah. So I need to add a daily goal field because in that code snippet, as you can see, it was making a call to load the goal somewhere. So all I'll do is add a field to the Shopify shop model, call it daily goal, and I'm done there. So let's just go take a look at the front end and see what we're even looking at and if it even loads. Okay, we got an error. Why is there an SSR? Why would there be a duplicate in there? Something is up. My front end is not loading. So I'm just looking at, I don't know if you folks can see my screen, but I'm just looking through, and I'm pretty sure one thing I haven't done is actually enabled the actions on the order models, because I'm going to be calling these to look at some data. And that might be part of my issue. So we'll do that. My views still don't load. And looking at my console logs. Oh, it's some sort of error boundary issue. Oh, there we go. I think it was me just not having turned on those API triggers. And sometimes when you turn them on, it takes about 30 seconds before it kind of propagates through Gadget and the front end realizes that like the API is available. So that's all that happened was I went to the Shopify order and order transaction models and enabled the API triggers, which I was using in my code to go fetch the data that I needed. So that renders our front end renderable. So now we can enter a target and we can kind of see already, like for September 24th, I have one order, $46 under gross income. And then this is the delta column where I'm comparing against this goal. So let's try 30. And neat. This is probably because Antoine, my colleague who wrote the file for me, added all sorts of neat little effects in terms of how to display the results. Yeah. Yeah, so this is the auto table we're looking at. And where's the highlighting? What line? It's not even highlighting. I don't know what word to use. Delta to sales goal target. Let's see if the assistant understands this. One thing I love about AI, or maybe not love, is how it's allowed me to get super sloppy, both in terms of how I communicate verbally and in writing. Like in writing, I just have typos everywhere now. I don't care because I'm used to the assistants understanding everything. So now when I'm typing to other humans, I'm just like slapping my keyboard. And in speaking too, I've just gotten so sloppy because I know it's going to understand what I mean, even though what I just said made absolutely no sense to a human being. Line 175. There we go. Yeah, so that's where you, yeah, so he's taking the gross income, and depending on how far we are from that goal, we'll show you a little check mark or a miss. And so there you have it. Very simple sales dashboard powered by a sync, which is a few lines of code that I just chose to put on install, and a single Jelly file that is aggregating all the data I care about, filtering through it and producing the results and returning it in this really nice API that's just like everything else in Gadget, auto-documented and auto-generated for you. So that's kind of the end-to-end experience. Now, where this is going is at some point in the near future, we will probably add other database technologies to Power Views just to make them a lot faster for maybe a premium price for the really complicated aggregations that are really big. And the last thing worth mentioning is you can use views inline as well in a backend action. So you don't always need to kind of write out a separate file in the views folder in such and such way and only call it from a front end. You can kind of call this from anywhere. This is both accessible through the front end or the back end. And so for aggregates in the back end, if you need them as well, they're available to you. I just happened to pick a use case where I was going to return the result to the front end. I'm going to stop, I think, here, because the point of the demo is really the views and not everything else. And maybe leave some of the extra time that we have for any questions. And I know Riley and others might stick around from the team that have a lot more context with views, so we can answer more complicated questions if you folks have them as well. I will pause and give everyone some time for questions and figure out how to see the questions on the software we're using. Oh, Riley was in the chat that I could not find, giving me hints as to what I was doing wrong the whole time. I now see him, giving me all the answers I needed. Icon. Okay, great. So we don't seem to have any questions. I think if that's the case, I'll probably end the live stream in a minute. If anyone does have questions, you can always come find me, us on our Discord. Give views a try. Honestly, I was pretty new to it myself as well. I tried it for the first time yesterday, preparing for this, and there's some DX issues we need to overcome in terms of, like, as I said, I would never have figured out that the group by date was the thing that was missing unless someone told me. And so there's some syntax issues that we need to fix, but where we plan on going with this is we'll actually show you your views as they're being generated as you type them out, which is, in my opinion, the ultimate DX. So we can maybe show you the table as you type in your query. So we'll make this better, but as it stands, this is a lot nicer to write out, in my opinion, than SQL once you understand it. So I'm pretty happy with what our team's built so far. I hope you all try it, like it, and give us feedback, and we'll see you on the Discord. Thanks a lot.